welcome to another Save Your Books live streaming book restoration video on YouTube. I'm still working on Emily of New Moon, and I have completed the sewing, and the next thing we're doing is we're going to do some rounding and backing and just lining, putting the liners on, and that's what we're going to do. So before I get it over there, and actually it's kind of exciting, I've moved the camera over to my job backer, so you're going to get to see my job backer, which I do think is like the number one thing that you should have in a serious bindery. That's the number one tool, because it holds your books up so you can work on the spine, and it's really big and heavy, so you can put heavy books in and it won't tip over or fall down. It's like having another pair of hands in the bindery. So that's why I like it. Let's see, some reminders. Yeah, so I just had my YouTube live Q&A for members just before this, and what I did in that video was I showed people how to make a new end band, because this book doesn't have any end bands, and I decided that I wanted to make some, and so I did, and you'll get to see them being put on the book. I made them out of this Japanese tissue, and I just like the blue. It kind of matches or goes with the original cover of the book. Now when I move over there, I'm not actually going to be able to see the chat, so when I come back over here, I'll check in with the chat and see if there are any comments or questions. So just bear with me. I don't know how else to do this. I'm still figuring out moving the new camera to a different spot in my studio. I don't know. It's a little awkward, but here we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've got the book. I'm figuring out which side is the head of the book. Always mark the head of the book. So here I'm looking this right side up, and I'm just going to put a big old X right there, and I'm like, that's the head of the book, because it doesn't matter for this particular thing, but you always want to keep it in mind, because eventually it really matters. So if you know where it is now, you'll know where it is later. Alright, and I've got some pressing boards, and got the book in there, and I'm jogging everything to the head. The X is at the bottom on the foot of the book right now. This is your chance to make sure that the book is square and in the shape that you want it to be, because once you've put your adhesive on the spine of the book, you're done. I mean, you can't really undo it. So if you put it on and your book is crooked, really like slanted like this, like undoing that's not an easy thing. So I'm looking for a square. Tilt that down a little bit. I've got a footed square here, and I can just go, okay, that's really going to be square, and that gives me some confidence. All right, now I'm going to switch cameras, see how this goes. That's my job backer. Oh. Well, that's a good point. Ugh. Man, I'm sorry. You probably couldn't even hear me over there, because I believe I have my microphone set to this camera, so I probably sounded really quiet. These are new problems I have to figure out if I'm going to be moving my camera around. So I apologize. You probably couldn't hear me from way over there. Basically, I was talking about bringing the book over here to the job backer and getting it in here. And actually, I've put these in the pressing boards, and they shouldn't be in the pressing boards because I want to use the little jaws of the job backer. Well, you could use this. The point is to shape the round of the book. You have to have it loose enough in here that you can move things around, but tight enough that you're not gonna, you know, do it wrong. I'm just looking at that and I think that's straight. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Yeah, it's just a lot of fiddly little things. You know, I'm going to leave the pressing boards in there. If I wanted a more sharp crease for the shoulder, I would put it right up against these metal plates here. I don't need that. So I'm feeling it for evenness. And I'm actually, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a layer of paste on this. Oh, why am I doing that? Oops. And this isn't nearly tight enough. Oh, you guys get to see a lot of mistakes today, so that's fun. Yeah, I'll be right back. Hold on. Okay, putting paste on this before I do the rounding is a mistake because getting this damp is going to make it more vulnerable, and I might actually damage some of the signature backs. Oh yeah, God, you know what? It's been a long time since I've done this. This is really interesting. Nope. Now I'm remembering. Yeah, this is even trickier than you would think. You can't just throw it in here and then round it and back it, because what we want is we want a layer of the PVA on top of this. And I just put that layer of paste to help future book restorers to be able to kind of deal with this. Tighten that a little bit more. All right, and I mean, ideally I would wait until that paste dried, but it's nearly dry. That was pretty dry paste. And now, once you have, I mean, it's already rounded. It has the right round. If this were a brand new binding, it might not have had that round, but it's a rebinding, and so it already has that really nicely in there. And so in order to get the shoulder, what I want is I want the PVA to be almost dry, and then I can kind of hammer at it and get that little bit of a shoulder. And I don't actually need a huge shoulder for this book. The boards are quite thin. And you notice I'm brushing off the end. You never want to come in because you might get glue on the end of your text block. Okay, this is why live is so exciting. I'm forcing the glue in between the signatures a little bit, and that tail of the sewing I'm putting up across with the other sewing. Just getting that all in there. Okay, now this is really awkward. I'm going to switch cameras again. But my microphone's in the phone one. Well, we'll see how it goes. All right. All right, I came back over here to check on the chat, see if anybody's over here, and also to just kind of cover what I'm doing. Man, I haven't bound a book in ages. When you're restoring books, you don't actually have to resew them a lot. Sometimes you do, but remembering how to do this, it's like, oh yeah, this. Interesting. So, I'll just show you the thinness of the boards. The shoulder of the book should be the same height or a little less than the board sitting on the book. I have another example I can show you. book I re-sewed. And, you know, it's like I re-sewed it and I'm trying to get it so that you can see the shape. Yeah, there, in front of my sweater. There, it's kind of good. Yeah, super awkward. Anyway, you can see the shape. There's space for the board thickness right here at the shoulder height. So that's what I'm working on. Yeah, I just have to wait for that to dry enough so that when I'm hitting it with the hammer, that the glue isn't coming off onto the hammer. The glue should be sticking to the text block, but not coming off onto the hammer. Meanwhile, what am I going to do with these boards? They are, yeah, I still need to finish lifting this up. Maybe I could work on that while we're waiting for that glue to dry. Nothing like waiting for glue to dry. I'm pulling over my handy dandy covered bricks, thinking that maybe I can, if I lift this up here, yeah, I go like that, then you can kind of see what I'm up to. So I've got the board of the book, and I'm just gonna lift the paste down so I can tuck the new material underneath. Notice when I'm doing this, I have my fingers kind of like leaning up against the bricks. Once you get a line, you can just kind of work it. Usually I get about here, and then I start over again on this side. And this is the book repair knife I designed. This is the original. This is the one I started with. It was originally a shoemaker's knife and had a clip point, and I was like, that needs to be rounded like a finger, because when I'm doing this lifting, I just hate it when I'm like, you're doing it and then the point goes right through the paper. This gives you a little more control. And I'll show you kind of what's going on here. I don't know if you can really see that. It's super hard to see. You can see where the original mull is under the paper, and that gives you a place to just go, I could go that far. That would be a good, stopping point. I like to go a little bit further than where that is, because that way you can avoid having a crease mark right where that is. So if you go another 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, something like that, that's pretty good. Alright, so I lifted that up. And I've still got the turn-ins. I have to decide what I'm doing with that. I'm just lifting them up right now. You can see they just lift up pretty easily. So all along I've been thinking, okay, we're going to do a new spine and put the old spine over this. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this tiny bit of blue that's here right now. Just cut off that 1/16 of an inch and then lift this, and then I'll be able to go under there, and the new material, whatever it is, who knows, might be this, would just go underneath and would show right there. And just checking on my other board, I've already got that lifted. one thing to note is that sometimes you get these layers of paper under here. I don't know if you can really see that, but layers of the board separate in here, and before you would, you know, glue it all back down, you have to get those layers, you have to get some paste in between those layers so that they'll actually stay. Otherwise, you've glued some of it but not the rest of it, and it could pop up later. So, okay, so I've got both paste downs are lifted, and yeah, so I think I'm just going to remove a 1/16 of an inch on both of these. I want to go back and check on that glue though, so come on over with me. And man, I'm just remembering again that you can't hear me way over here. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear me at all. I'll see what I can do. Going back to the hands-on. Hi, sorry about that. Wow, really short memory. I went over there and I was like, oh, they can hear me good enough. I don't know if you can. So the sound quality may be terrible on this. I apologize. This is still a little tacky. I'm going like that. You definitely can't hear that, but it's making a noise. Yeah, so I need to wait until that's not tacky. And I guess I could bring this camera over with me. Then you'll at least have the microphone, because I use the phone microphone rather than the computer microphone because it's a better microphone. All right, switching that. Let's just try that. I'm gonna put that here. And now we'll have at least that microphone for while I'm over here. I will get better at this. Man, I just wish there was like a manual to tell you all the things you're supposed to remember when you're doing this. But there isn't. I just have to figure it out. Alright, I've got a cutting mat. I've got this straight edge, and I'm just going to grab a X-Acto knife. I don't like using the book repair knife for this because the beveled side would be toward what I'm cutting. It doesn't work very well. So I'm just cutting a 1/16 of an inch off. You don't want to cut too hard because otherwise you're going to go right into your board. The ends off. There you go. If you do grab a thickness of the board, actually that is not great. I think I did that on this. You just want to cut through the cloth and not the board, and man, I did that wrong. Take a look at that. That's a 32nd of an inch, but it's going to make a difference. So what I should have done was lifted the cloth up a little bit before I did the cutting. Oh, it's a good day for mistakes. But you see I'm peeling this off, and I'm going to glue the board back down. Now I just have to glue that. Oh, and my glue's over there. All right, so it's obvious where it goes on here. So I'm going to glue this back onto there. Sometimes it's nice to do that anyway, to just not do it wrong anyway, but to get some layers lifted a little bit and kind of re-glue them, because that is a vulnerable point when you're creating the cover. And if you're attaching to one layer and that layer is not attached to the next layer, then it can lift up. It's a problem. So I'm going to do that. Let me try and do this one correctly. How about that? Let's do this one correctly. And So I've got that. Okay, so that means, you know what? I've got another tripod. I just want you to be able to see what I'm working on. Is that so wrong? Whoa, that almost fell down. Okay, let's try this. Aha. All right. So did this one kind of incorrectly. Let's reset and do what I should have done in the first place, which is to make my usual angled cut so that you can lift the turn in a little bit. And you're going to want to clean that up a little bit. Other angled cut. I guess I'm about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch out to 1/2 an inch, maybe. Something like that. All right, so if your corners were mushy, these are a little bit mushy. This is a great opportunity to, you know, deal with the mushy corners. See how they're separating just that little bit? It's a good opportunity to do that. So, but now that I've got that open up, I'm going to get just the cloth lifted. So I'm aiming at just the cloth, but if I get one layer of the board, and I'm talking a really thin, like just paper thin layer of the board, that's okay. You can see that. There you go. You would not want to poke through here, so you have to be really careful. And here I am. I'm giving you really, but don't work on it when it's up in the air. That's not a good thing. This is way better because now I can be pressing down with the knife. All right. That's better. Okay, so now that's lifted. And now I could do that trimming of that little foredge piece. Or really not the foredge at all. This is the spine edge. And I'm just removing that 1/16. And I'm dragging this super light because obviously I cut into the board last time and I don't want to do that again. So very light. And now that's off. I did not cut into the board this time. Yay. Even better, that was the front. Right, and there are some other niceties that I will be reviewing with all of this probably next time because I really want to get back to the hammering. So let's go back over there. Bring in the camera. You can just come with me. Okay. There's the floor. There we go. All right, I'm going to run back and make sure you can actually see what I want you to see there. Yeah. Great. That looks good. So it's not tacky now. That's exactly how we want it. but it's also cold. I guess that's really the, that's how I figured this out. It's like, it's not tacky, but it's still cold. That means there's some flexibility left in there. When you're hammering, you start in the middle. I'm trying to push the signatures over. And there's kind of like a swinging motion you do. Like I said, we don't need a big shoulder because it's a really skinny board. So the boards that are on it right now are probably the same skinniness. So I'm kind of using those as a guide. Yeah, it doesn't need a lot. All right, so there's that. Any little adjustments to be made? I kind of like to use the Teflon folder and just rub it down a little more. That's feeling pretty good. All right, so after that, I'm going to start all the linings, and that means more glue. And when you're doing the linings, you just want to remember where you're going with this. Where are we going? We're trying to make it so that the peak, or how the book opens, is a, you know, looks like a hillside instead of a mountaintop. All right, so, well, all right, there's all different ways to think about this. I love putting a whole layer of mull all the way along and then putting the end bands on top. But some people will put the end bands on first, and that's another way to do it. You can totally do it that way. I am activating the mull. It's a starched cloth, and so by spraying it with a little bit of water, I'm opening up the fibers to accept the glue and kind of merge with the glue. And I always think of this as, you know, paper mache kind of stuff. And you can see I just grabbed a piece. This is definitely a rough cut. Now my fingers are all gluey. I'm going to grab a paper towel. Usually I have a clean rag nearby. Okay. Boy, it's just a day. It's just a day. There we go. Because I didn't see anybody commenting, I'm wondering if I set the comments, if I left the comments setting to members only, which if I did that, I'm sorry. I just did a members video, so that might have been what happened. All right, so there's all that. And here's what this is what I did for the members in that video. Made these little end bands. Just measuring that. Yep, that's a good width. And I always cut the ears off. That's something that my teacher taught me, is to angle them in so that they don't catch on the boards. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Good. Got that. All right. if you were putting a ribbon in your book, you would do that before the end bands. Or at least that's how I was taught. I'm thinking about that now, going, why would you do that? Because if you pull the ribbon, it would pull the end band off. I might put the ribbon on like this instead. But then it's going over. I don't know. Good question. What do you think? Let me know. All right, and then sometimes at this point I'll take it out. In fact, I'm going to do it this time. I like to tuck in the mull because you want to be really precise with the paper liners so that they go side to side. All right, I'm just making sure that mull is really attached. Every layer should be thoroughly attached before you attach the next layer. And the end bands, the part with the little rounded part, should always sit just right on top of the text block, just above it. All right, got all that. So I've got this, I think this is Mohawk Superfine. You can use the Antique End Leaf Dove Gray or other colors. It's just nice to have an archival bit. And make sure you have the grain direction. The grain direction on this actually is long. So you measure absolute side to absolute side. And then you measure so it's just below the top of that end band because you don't really want it to show, but you also want it to support the end band. So that's what I've gone and done. Then you go and cut it, and I actually already did that, so I would be ready. And I guesstimated the width because I hadn't already done the backing, but that looks good. So now I have to get a waste sheet. All right, I don't think you need to watch me glue this out. I'm going to do it over here. Okay, here we go. Sometimes I'll, once again, kind of help the fibers to relax with a little dampness. You can't rub very hard at first because you don't want to damage it. When it's wet, it's a little vulnerable. So I'm just kind of going, okay. Get on there, and then let's see. Got some wax paper here. You could use baking parchment or wax paper or a sheet of Mylar. Just something so that you're not moving the materials around, and you just have a chance to rub it down a little bit more. Now this, I always think of, sorry, crinkle. I always think of this as a babysitting process. Like, I have now put this down, but I need to let this dry a little more, and then I want to rub it down again. So like in 3 minutes, like you're making tea, let it get going, and then come back and rub it down again. And what you never want to do is when it's still in this damp, vulnerable state, you never want to like take it out and open it up and see how it's doing. Like you actually need to let this dry completely. All right, I'll bring this back over here so I actually have a microphone. Once again, sorry about that from last time. I get to see all kinds of weird things in my shop. All right, here we are. Back again. Yeah, I think I must have left the chat on members only. So sorry about that. And consider becoming a member. What you're doing is you're literally saying, hey, what you're doing is really cool. I would love to buy you a cup of coffee once a month for at least this month. You can always cancel. That's all it is. And then I do have that little members only thing once a month on the first Thursday, 10 a.m. So far, so good. So anyway, I think that's all we're going to do for now. Next time I'm going to show you how the book is opening. I may want to put on another liner because that's a thing I do sometimes. If you don't want it to open up as easily, you would put 2 liners on, or like the French bindings, the old French bindings would put layer on layer on layer. So you're like never going to open that book all the way up. Like that's just how they did it. And it was for their gold finishing for the spine, which was amazing. Like really good gold finishing. You don't want to mess with that. So anyway, that's it for now. Remember that the best way to support any creative endeavor is to tell a friend.